Hello, my name's Carl Kochar and I'm a technical architect at Microsoft. This short demonstration outlines the creation of a syntax document understanding model that identifies and extracts useful metadata from web contracts. The model also adds a retention label and sensitivity label to the client web contracts. A document understanding model is created within a SharePoint Content Center. To start building the model, we first add a minimum of 5 examples of the client web contracts we want to classify, and at least one negative example. In my demonstration, I've added some additional positive and negative examples. Once the files are loaded, I use the classifier tool to train the model to recognize my client web contract documents. The process is really straightforward. For each of the documents I've uploaded, I just need to tell the system if it's an example of a web contract or not. I then create an explanation which tells the model how to identify my documents. I'll use a phrase, which in my simple example is just website design agreement. If necessary, I could add additional phrases to make my explanation more specific. The next step is to train the classifier. And as you can see, I get a match for all my documents, which means I can proceed on to the next phase of my model creation. If for any reason I didn't get matches for all my documents, I'd need to improve my explanation. The next step I'll perform will be to create my extractors. This is just the metadata I want to capture from my contracts. The first extractor I'll build will identify the client name. As I have previously classified client data in other models, it's assigned as an existing column. I then need to review each of my example web contracts and label the client name. When I reach my negative examples, I tick the No Label box. Once the labeling process is complete, I need to add explanations that tell my model how to find the client name in my contract documents. In this demonstration, I'll use the Before Label template, which has automatically identified the words "and between" as preceding the client name. But when I save and train the model, not all of the documents are matched. When I review the mismatches, I can see I'm picking up punctuation as part of the client name. To fix this, I'll try an after label that automatically identifies that the client name will be followed by a comma and the word with. If I need to, I can edit any of the phrases provided by the system or add my own. Now, when I save and train the extractor, I get a full set of matches. The next extractor I'll add will pull out a contract's final design date. Like the previous example, I'll label the relevant date. This time, my extractor will use a specific set of pattern recognitions I've created to identify the date in the format required for my web contracts. I think of these as being number and character wildcards. In my demo tenant, this type of wildcard extraction is on by default. For a detailed explanation, refer to the syntax documentation. Unfortunately, I've got a mismatch, so we'll need to add some more explanation. Looking at the contract, it's logical to teach the model to look for a before label. When I add the template, I can see the phrase, in this case, date followed by a colon, is not detailed enough and clashes with other parts of the document. So I'll edit the phrase to be final design date. Now when I train the model, matches are returned. The final extractor I'll add will identify the remaining balance due on the web contract. I'll use a before label to train the model to look in the correct location. Just to be thorough, I'll also add an after label, although this isn't probably strictly necessary. The final step in my model creation is to add my web contracts sensitivity and retention labels that I previously configured to ensure I'm adhering to my organization's security and governance requirements. As I didn't add these during my initial model creation, I'll assign them for my model settings. To test my model, I'll assign it to my client web contracts site, which is actually a Microsoft team. And then upload a couple of client contracts. After a few minutes, I can see that the correct metadata has been pulled and my retention and sensitivity labels have been applied. When I navigate to my Microsoft Teams folder, I can see my metadata, retention and sensitivity labels. I could also upload web contracts directly from inside Microsoft Teams for processing.